Hey, Willie, what's going on? Yeah, no, I have a few minutes. I was just looking actually on the Grandstream website to see what firmware updates were available for the routers and the switches. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, all right. Yeah, I didn't realize. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we discuss the project details in the upcoming Zoom call that we have scheduled? Yeah. Sound good? All right, my man. You got it. I'll talk to you. Thanks for the call. Alrighty, bye-bye. Hey, Willie, thanks for joining. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tony from Quick Tech Solutions, and I have...
I'm Willie with Willie Howe Technology. Thanks for having me, Tony.
I appreciate it. This is an exciting project that we decided to collab on. I mentioned in the opening part of the video to the folks that we were working on a project together based on the fact that Grandstream just released the new beta firmware for the GCC series, which brings a lot of new features to the GCC, but the one key point that's huge is it brings ZeroTier to the platform. So what we hashed out and talked about as far as what should we do for this project, as you know, is we said, well, why don't we set up my GCC and your GCC and link them up on the ZeroTier network and see if we can make that work. And then what I liked about that is you came up with step 2, or the next part, that we could take it a little further. Why don't you elaborate on that?
So to talk about the ZeroTier a little bit, this is evidence that Grandstream is listening to us, right? We've been asking for native ZeroTier in the firmware. It's here. People have asked, is it coming to the GWN routers? We can't speak to that. We know it's in the GCC. Tony and I both know that going forward, the GCC is going to be a platform if you're worried about security, or if cyber liability insurance. My prediction is in the next 4 to 5 years, you'll have to do TLS inspection. Why not do it with a $159 appliance? You know what I mean? So anyway, Grandstream is seeing all these things, coming down the line. Obviously, now we've got file type inspection, we've got file extension inspection in there. But that ZeroTier that Tony talked about, it allows you, if you're not familiar with ZeroTier, and Tony is going to definitely talk more about this, but it allows you to create a connection between your sites when your internet connectivity may be challenging, whether you're behind CGNAT or a double NAT situation, and a standard VPN is not going to work. ZeroTier makes it super, super easy, and you're going to see that when Tony gets into it and then gives me the information that I need to connect it. Now, I want to say what we're going to do here is we're going to create a peer trunk between our two UCMs so that we can actually use the handsets on our desks to just make phone calls like we're in the same office. And we're going to do that using the built-in UCMs into the GCCs. Now, you could have a standalone UCM. You could even have it in another VLAN. It doesn't have to be on your main VLAN, so you can set it up the way that we always suggest, where voice is on a separate VLAN, so you can create firewall rules, quality of service, all of those things to protect your voice network. You could use the software UCM, and if for some reason you wanted to, I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to use a different PBX that is not Grandstream, you could also do that and make your PBXs talk together.
Okay, so I guess at this point we should get started with exactly what is ZeroTier for those who are not familiar with this type of concept. Now, I've done a few ZeroTier videos on my channel in the past using Synology devices, and I'm pretty sure Willie's done videos himself using ZeroTier and its implementation. And he could speak more about that later on in the video if he liked. But anyway, what is it basically? It's a software-defined solution that allows you to easily connect devices in one location or multiple locations easily. No punching holes in firewalls or anything like that. If we take a look down here, SD-WAN, that's what they consider it. It says easily connect store locations, campuses, branch offices, construction sites, and more with a straightforward software-defined network. As far as the VPN capabilities, it lets employees access centralized resources securely without the complication and overhead of a traditional VPN. Now, if we come over and click on Learn More, what ZeroTier describes it as is a secure networking overlay that allows you to manage all of your network resources as if they were on the same LAN. And again, basically allowing you to connect devices either internally or externally without having to punch holes into your firewalls. Getting started is really super simple. There's a 3-step approach. 1, you sign up for a free ZeroTier account. Now they do have different tiers. They do have the free tier and then several paid tiers all the way up to enterprise. Then you download the ZeroTier app on the device so that it gets assigned a 10-digit ID to represent it as a node. Once you create your ZeroTier network, after you create your free account, your network will have a unique 16-digit ID. So you add the 16-digit ID to the actual device, and then the device will be able to present itself on the ZeroTier network, and that's where step 3 comes in, where you as the owner then can go in and authenticate or allow the device onto your network to make it part of your ZeroTier network. So that said, I think the next part is for Willie and I to go ahead and show you how to configure ZeroTier on the GCC devices so that we create this software-defined solution. All right, so now that we have a basic understanding of what ZeroTier is all about, you can see I'm signed into my ZeroTier account. Now I'm using the free tier. I've created my first network, but if you wanted to create more networks, you just click the create a network icon here. But you can see my first network here. It's got a network ID, which is critical to adding nodes to the network. You can see I named the network YouTube Demo Willie because we're doing this YouTube collaboration, so it's perfect. And then it was assigned a subnet. So to click in and see more about the network, just click on the network itself. And what you could see here is I already have one node connected, node being my computer here in the studio. I have my Mac Studio connected to the ZeroTier network by authorizing it. So I did that all off camera. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to add the GCC that I have here in the lab back on the workbench to the ZeroTier network. So that's where this network key comes into place. So I'm going to copy the network key to my clipboard. Now I'm going to switch over to my Grandstream GDMS portal because I'm going to access the router on the back desk through the portal because it's in a double NAT situation, so I'm not directly connected to it. So it's this one here, the GCC home. So we're going to come over to this icon here and we're going to connect to it remotely through the GDMS portal. Okay, let me get signed in. Okay, now that we're signed in, we're going to come over to the top and click on the Network tab. We're going to come over to the left menu. We're going to click on VPN to expand that menu, and we're going to drop down and select ZeroTier. Now, what you see here is, because I was playing with this and testing this earlier this week, as soon as you turn on ZeroTier here on the GCC, it defines a unique identifier. That's what it says here. The globally unique identifier of the device within the ZeroTier network automatically generated when the ZeroTier program starts up. So if this is the first time you're doing this, this should be blank. So I'm going to go ahead. First step is to enable the ZeroTier VPN. Select the WAN interface. For me, it's going to be WAN 2. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to add a network. So we're going to click on Add. And I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this Tony. I'm going to enable it, and then here under Network ID, I'm going to paste in the network ID that I copied back over from the ZeroTier network here. So we have it pasted in here. I'm just going to leave the forwarding destination group to all, and I'm going to leave IP masquerading on. I'm going to go ahead, and I'm going to click on Save. Okay, so now it says disconnected. So if I go up to the ZeroTier network, we eventually should see the node pop up for authorization. Okay, and there we go. There's the node. If we go back and look real quick, it hasn't been authorized yet here in ZeroTier. If we go back and we look at the GCC, we could see now the connection status says unauthorized. So let's go back into ZeroTier now. I'm going to select the node, and I'm going to come up to here and I'm going to say authorize. And now you can see we have a green check mark. I'm going to click on the edit button. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Tony like I did in the GCC, and I'm going to add the IP, and I'm going to give this a static IP of 192.168.193.1, which is on the subnet of the ZeroTier network, which is 192.168.193.0. We're going to go ahead and say save. And now you can see we are authorized. 192.168.193.1, authorized for 1 minute. So now what happens next is, now that I have the ZeroTier network created, I'm going to go ahead and give Willie the network ID, and Willie's going to do the exact same configuration on his GCC, and then it should appear back up in the ZeroTier network for authorization once he's gotten that far, and then we'll go to the next step after that.
All right, so there's a few things that we've got to do on my GCC 6010. The first thing we've got to do is we have to join the ZeroTier network. So Tony has already sent me that network identifier that I need to put in here. Then we're going to talk about peer trunks, and we're going to talk about setting those peer trunks up and everything that we need to do. So I'm logged into my GCC. I'm going to go over to the router. I'm going to go down to VPN. I'm going to go to ZeroTier. I'm going to add a network here. I'm going to call this Tony. I'm going to paste in the network ID, and I'm going to click enable. I'm going to click save there. Now that that's there, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click ZeroTier VPN enabled, and I'm going to click save. So now what this is doing is this is sending an authorization to Tony, and he is going to authorize me, and I'm actually going to ping him here. So I let him know that I've made that request. So now on his side, he just has to authorize me.
All right, so now that Willie's completed the configuration on his GCC, if you look up at my screen, you can see here we have a new node waiting for authorization. So we're going to go ahead, select it, and I'm going to click it and say authorize, just like I did for mine. I'm going to go in to the edit icon, and I'm going to call it Willie, so we know that this is his GCC, and I'm going to give it a static IP address of 192.168.193.2, and I do the static IP addresses just for best practice purposes. So we'll go ahead and we'll say save, and now you can see Willie's GCC has been authorized, 192.168.193.2. Tony's GCC is up on top, 192.168.193.1. So the next step, now that we have both routers authorized, is to set up managed routes so that we can ping both devices on their local LAN network. So we're going to come down to manage routes area, and I'm going to add, so by default it automatically adds the ZeroTier network. I'm going to add Willie's local LAN, which is 192.168.66.0/24, and we're going to do it via the IP address. So we got to do it via the IP address that was assigned, or that I assigned to his router, which is 193.2. So we're going to go here and 192.168.66.0/ I thought that didn't look right to me, and we're going to do it via 192.168.193.2 because we wanted to go via his gateway. We're going to submit that, and then we're going to do the same thing for my network. So my network is 80.0, and we're going to do it via 193.1, which is my gateway on the ZeroTier network. So we'll submit, So now that we have the 3 routes in, we have the ZeroTier route, plus we have the 2 local LANs in, Willie and I should be able to ping back and forth between the local networks.
All right, and you can see that Tony has now authorized me. The network name that we have is YouTube Demo Willie. And so now what I should be able to do is, once he has all of the routes and everything added, is I should be able to ping his PBX, which is going to be 192.168.80.2. All right, I think he's got those routes and everything added in ZeroTier. So we can come down here to routing. We can go to route table, and we can see that I now have a route to the 192.168.80 network, and I also have a route to the ZeroTier network. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up a command prompt, and we're going to see if we can ping Tony's UCM, and there it is. Now we're all doing a lot of stuff, so that latency may spike around a little bit. And not in this video. In this video, we won't be adding quality of service. But to ensure that voice is going to work over this properly, that might be a video that we do in the future.
Okay, so let me go ahead now and try to ping Willie's UCM, which is at the address of 192.168.66.2 on his local subnet. So let me bring up my terminal window. Let me make it a little larger. And let's go bigger. Let's go bigger this way so you guys can see this. And there you can see I'm able to successfully ping Willie's UCM, the built-in UCM, on his GCC device.
So now what I'm going to do, now that I can ping Tony, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on over to my PBX. And under my PBX, I just have, the one handset, the GRP 2614. You can see that if I go to the endpoints. I'm using the 6,000 range. Tony's on the 3,000 range. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hop back over to the PBX, and we've got to do a couple things. We've got to set up a peer trunk, and since there is some latency and some things that we don't control in the ZeroTier network, we're actually going to use TCP for a little bit more reliability for this trunk. We also recommend that if you are doing peer trunks either over the internet or whatever, you can also use TLS to encrypt that connection. Here we're just going to use TCP. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into VoIP trunks, and we're going to add a SIP trunk. And it is going to be a peer SIP trunk, and I'm going to just call this Tony. And the host name is going to be 192.168.80.2 because that is Tony's UCM on the other side. We're not doing a dedicated VLAN. We are going to select TCP for the transport. We're going to leave the rest of these options at default. We're going to click Save. Before we apply this, we're going to edit the trunk. We're going to go to Advanced Settings, and we're going to scroll down to the option that allows us to enable the heartbeat detection here so that we can see on the system status when that trunk comes up. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm going to apply it. And then what we've got to do is we've got to set up an outbound route and an inbound route. And we're going to set this up specifically to talk to Tony's 3000 series of extensions. So he's using 3000, 3000, whatever it is, but he's within the 3000s. We are within the 6000. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set this outbound route. And this route is going to be set to call Tony's 3000 series of extensions. So I'm going to click Add, and I'm just going to call this to Tony. My privilege level I'm going to set as internal. Then what I'm going to do for the pattern is I'm going to put 3XXX, which means that any number that is 4 numbers long and starts with 3, send it out of this outbound route. I'm going to come down, I'm going to select SIP trunks Tony. I'm not going to do any time conditions or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and save that. It's going to warn us that internal may have some security issues, but we want everybody to be able to dial over to those extensions. And the more you get into peer trunks and things like that, you can do some really cool things like least cost routing. And for now, Tony and I just want to hook our offices together. So I'm going to go ahead and apply those changes. Changes have been applied. So now we're going to set our inbound route. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an inbound route. And we're going to use the Tony SIP trunk. Inbound route be from Tony. Okay. Now the pattern, what calls coming in, right? So if you're familiar with setting a DID, when we set the 10 or 11 digits on the DID, we're wanting to receive, where are these calls coming into? So this is actually for this, because it's incoming calls to me, we're going to do 6, 1, 2, 3. We're going to leave everything else default until we get down to the default destination. We're going to select by DID. So if they call 6, whatever, it's going to route that to the correct phone internally. And I think that is all we need to do on this. We can get into all kinds of advanced setup, but we just want to get this call going between the sites. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and apply it. Then the last thing that I need to do is within the NAT on the system, I need to come down here to PBX settings, SIP settings, NAT, and down here I'm going to need to add Tony's 192.168.80 network. Also, we have get external IP via stun and use IP address and SDP enabled. So down here I'm going to add Tony's 192.168.80.0. We're going to add that. We're going to save it. It's going to restart the calling module, so we'll say reboot. And then I always hit apply changes anyway because I'm so used to hitting that blue button that I always do it whenever it appears. So that being said, we'll see if our trunk is up. Right now it's abnormal, which means the other side is not set up yet. As soon as it is set up, we will see this go to an available status, and we should be able to make calls between the systems.
All right, so now that Willie's got his trunk and his PBX set up all on his end, I need to do the same thing here to establish the connection between the two. Now, earlier you saw me access the GCC through the Grandstream portal, which I currently have up on the screen. And again, I did that because it was in a double NAT situation. I wasn't directly connected to it. And we didn't have ZeroTier set up at that point in time. But now that ZeroTier is set up, I should be able to connect to that GCC back there using the ZeroTier IP address. So let's do that. And then you can see the login page load. So I'm accessing it now through the ZeroTier assigned IP. So let's get logged in. Okay, now that we're logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and pretty much repeat the same steps that Willie did. I'm going to create my trunk, I'm going to create my outbound and inbound routes, and then I'm going to add the allowed subnets to the SIP settings under the NAT tab. So let's get started by first adding the trunk. So let's come over to the PBX module, or the UCM module, I should say. We're going to come to the left side menu. We're going to click on extension trunks. We're going to go to VoIP trunks. We're going to say add a SIP trunk. We do want the pure SIP trunk, which is what it gives you by default. I'm going to call the provider name Willie. The host name is the internal IP address of Willie's PBX. So on his internal network, which is 192.168.66.2. we're going to switch from UDP. I'm going to use TCP. It's just for more reliability's sake. And then we're going to leave everything else the same. We're going to go ahead. We're going to click on Save. But before I apply the changes, let's go back into the edit mode. And let's come over to the advanced settings. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to look for Enable Heartbeat. Enable heartbeat detection. So this way I could monitor on the dashboard the status of the trunk. So we'll go ahead and we'll click Save. And then we'll apply changes. Now that we have that done, let's come over and add our outbound route. So the first thing we're going to do is click on the Add button, and we're going to say, we'll say call Willie. And we need to, there we go, we need to get the space out of there. So for the pattern, we're going to use 6XXX. That's a 4-digit dialing extension, basically saying that anything going to 6 whatever will be sent out to Willie's phone. So 6XXX. We're going to set the privilege level to internal. And then we're going to come down. We're going to select the trunk that we just created, trunk Willie. And then that's it. We're going to say save. We're going to get yelled at about the privilege level being internal, but that's okay for this demo. We're going to go ahead. We're going to say apply changes. Now for the inbound route. Kind of similar. We're going to click on the add button, SIP trunk Willie, inbound route name. We're going to say from Willie. And then the pattern is going to be, again, 4-digit dialing, and we're going to do 3XXX, basically saying, because my extensions are in the 3000 range, anything destined for the 3000 range extensions, accept. And then we're going to come all the way down to the bottom, and under default destination, we're going to say by DID, so that regardless of what extension is called, the PBX will know if they're calling extension 3001, send it to 3001. If it's going to 3003, send it to 3003, and so forth. So we'll go ahead and we'll click Save. We'll apply changes. And then we're going to come over to the PBX settings in the left menu. We're going to come over to the SIP settings. We're going to come over to NAT. We want to make sure that we enable Get External IP via Stun. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to allow the local network addresses. So I'm going to allow the 66.0. I'm going to allow the 80.0. But I'm not done there. I also, because I'm behind the double NAT situation, it's not really a production UCM. It's just a lab, test lab UCM. I have to add the ZeroTier network as well for calls to work in both directions. So 192.168.66.0 and add 192.168.80.0, add, and now the ZeroTier network 192.168.193.0, add. It's going to reboot the calling module, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and we're going to apply changes. And if everything went well on Willie's end and on my end, we should have communication between the two UCMs. And you can see here that I do have a blue status, meaning Willie's UCM is reachable via the peer trunk.
Like I said, I know Tony is working on configuring the other side of this, and it looks like we are now available, which means that he at least has the trunk configured, and he's going to be configuring those inbound and outbound routes and his NAT settings. And once the configuration is finished, we should be able to place a call. So stay tuned.
All right, so we have everything all set up, all configured, ready to go. Now it's the moment of truth to see if this actually works. So in front of me here, I have the Grandstream GHP 611W hotel phone. Willie, what are you using today?
I am using my second favorite Grandstream handset, which is the GRP 2614.
Awesome. All right, let me give you a call. I'm going to turn down this microphone so that the only audio the folks hear is going to be the actual phone call, so they know this isn't the magic of video happening here.
Perfect. There's Tony ringing through. We're going to answer the phone. Hey, Tony, can you hear me?
Hey, Willie, I hear you loud and clear.
And now the only place I hear you is coming through my handset, and the folks at home should be hearing that feeding into my mic.
100%.
All
All right, looks like we have success.
All right, you want me to call you back the opposite direction just so they can see that calls work both ways?
100%. Let's do it.
All right. All right, so I just hung up my phone. I'm going to call Tony back at extension 3000. Phone is ringing.
Hey, Willie.
Hey, Tony, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Let me bring my mic back up so
I could put the
mic
back, the phone by the mic so they can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now? Perfect. So we've got audio both ways. I consider this a success, Tony.
I do too. All right, I'm hanging up.
All right, bye.
All right, so there you have it. I think that was a huge success, Willie. So just to recap before we bring everything to a close, what we did was we set up both our GCCs on a zero-tier network. Then we configured the peer-to-peer configuration between the built-in UCMs. We were able to make the test call between my location and your location. Obviously, we're in two different states for folks who don't know. So, yeah, I think this was a huge thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about this is it's super easy. As Tony showed you when he was doing his configuration, because his GCC is nested, he did have to add some additional NAT to the UCM. He had to add that zero-tier network in there. Now, if your GCCs both have public IPs, you're probably not going to have to do that. But in the event that you're behind CGNAT or you are double natted, you're always going to want to double check those networks to make sure you have everything in the NAT section of the UCM that you need to make that call work properly.
100%. Well, I want to thank you, Willie, for collaborating with me on this project. It was fun. I learned things along the way. I appreciate you 100%. So I'm going to take it to a close, and then I'll hand it over to you. So I'm Tony with Quick Tech Solutions, folks. Thanks for watching my videos and for all the years of support, and hope to do more of this type of collaborations in the future.
Absolutely. It's been fun. And I'm Willie, and this is not my normal closing, but first of all, if you are in Tony's area, he's great to work with, does a lot of structured cabling. He does the phone systems. He does the network security, the same kind of stuff that we do. If you need boots on the ground over in the South Coastal region, make sure you're reaching out to Tony. If for some reason you can't find him, if you ping me, I'll make that connection for Tony. Otherwise, if you need IT consulting, you can head on over to williehowe.com, fill out the contact form that's on the front page. And if you want to talk more about these types of things, you can also go to community.williehowe.com. As always, there's affiliate links down below. And I appreciate you watching this video. And Tony, I can't wait to see what we come up with next.
All right, you got it, my friend. Thanks so much. Talk to you.